As we've been using the Autodesk Model Checker for Revit and exporting critical data and then leveraging that data into visualization dashboards, one of the key components to this whole workflow is finding an appropriate place to share this information. And one of the places that we've discovered and that we're excited by is to be able to share it right on the project homepage of your BIM 360 project. This is a pretty straightforward workflow, and we wanted to demonstrate it here in this video. We're going to highlight the basic steps and some things to watch out for as you're building your Power BI dashboard and as you're bringing it into your project as well. So you can see here, I've got just a sample project set up. Obviously not a lot of issues or packages built here, but I created this for this video exclusively. And what we're going to do is build another card right here on the front page that has embedded in it a Power BI report that we have built based off of some of the things we covered in the previous video about leveraging our model checker data inside of Power BI. So if we look at Power BI real quick, I've created a new report here. You'll notice I've filtered down a lot of the data in here. If you remember those cards that we just looked at on our BIM 360 dashboard, they're not huge. You can't get a lot of information in there. And you've got to be kind of careful about the size because as different people resize their browser window, the size of the report is going to vary. So I want to target critical information. I want to have big text. I want to have big metrics to look at. And I want to make sure that this information is easy to read and easy to understand. Now, these reports here specifically target information that's good during the design phase. So I might want to build multiple reports and change those out during design, during pre-con, during construction to target and pay attention to information that's more critical during those phases. So some specific things to call out other than just having very clean graphics in here. You'll notice the text looks pretty big. If I come to the report as I'm building it here in the Power BI dashboard, if I go to the format settings, and this is the report format settings because I don't have any visualization selected. If I look at the page size, I tweaked the page size here. The default is a pretty large page size to fill up an entire monitor, but I dialed this down. There's no specific size to give it because, as I said, the format and the aspect ratio of those cards on my BIM 360 page are going to change depending on how the browser has it. But I took it down to 700 by 500 to give me a general idea of a rough size of what this report might look at. That also helps impact the font sizes, so I don't have to dial the font sizes up to something crazy like 130. Power BI kind of caps you at a certain font size. So in addition to modifying the page size, I'm going to pull this over a little bit. If we look at the page view setting here, you'll notice that it's toggled to fit to page. You don't want this set to actual size because if it's actual size, then once this report is inside of the browser, it's not going to resize itself. It'll just kind of crop it based on how big that card set itself is. So once page view is fit to page, my report will grow and shrink depending on how my BIM 360 browser window is set up. So once I get my report set up, once I get my visualizations toggled, on the Home tab here, you go to Publish, and you're going to publish this up to whatever workspace that you have set up inside of BIM 360 as well. So this is published up here now in Power BI. I've got to make sure I'm paying for the Power BI Pro because we're going to be sharing this report as a web page, and that's a feature that's only available to Pro users inside of Power BI. Now, there's not much I need to do here. I've already created and set things up. I have pulled in my data on the Power BI desktop, but I'll just take a quick look, make sure things are good to go. And once they're set, I want to go to File, and I want to create a link here that I can copy the URL for to pull into BIM 360. So there's two here. There's Embed and there's Publish to Web. Embed gives you a URL, but you have to log in to Power BI to see it. So this might not be the way you want to go. Publish to Web gives you a publicly available URL. So anybody with this URL can see it. So if you do have security issues, you may want to go embed, but you'll just have to be sure that whoever accesses that BIM 360 page, if they want to see your report, they have to log in. For this one, most of the information here is pretty generic. I don't know which project it's for. There's no financial information here. So I'm just going to use Publish to Web. And that brings up this dialog box, and here's the URL I want. So I'm not worrying about the iframe, I just want the direct URL for it, and I'm just going to copy that URL, and I'm going to close this down. That pretty much is it inside the Power BI here on the web. If I go over to BIM 360 now, here's this project I'm making. I'm on the project homepage. All I need to do now is go over to Customize, click Card Library, and this brings up all the different cards that I can add to my dashboard. And you see some are the issues. Here's the design issues. We've got project design here for BIM 360. There's also these partner cards built in here. There's a lot of different partner cards. And of course, what we're interested specifically here is the Power BI partner card. So I check that. I say Add Card. It's going to put this card down at the bottom. And now I need to configure it. So I click Configure. In the URL space, I'm going to paste in that URL that I just copied. And I'm just going to go ahead and change the card title here to Model Health. Obviously, the card title is not critical, but that partner URL is. So once I save it, I'm going to get a preview. And this shows me that report right here in the window. And as I mentioned, since we have it set to fit to page, if I resize anything here, it's going to just kind of resize the report itself. It's not going to crop it based on the full page here. So I can click and drag this card around if I want it up here. I'm going to click and drag it up here. You can't resize it. You kind of get this, at least in this aspect ratio, it's kind of a square. But once I'm done, I want to be sure I hit Save up here on Customize Dashboard. And now that Power BI page is saved in here, and anyone coming in here to look at this my BIM 360 front page is going to see this report in here. Now, updates to the report are going to be managed just like you'd manage any other Power BI report update. I can make the update on my desktop version, and then I can publish it back up to the web. If my source is available through the web, I can access it via there and set up an auto refresh. One note I do want to make about having the auto refresh on here. I've noticed that the published version of my report does take some time to refresh. It took about 20 minutes when I was testing it out. So even though on the web here, if I have an updated version and I can see different numbers and different values, what shows up here on BIM 360 may be out of date by a few minutes. It doesn't take too long, but it's not going to be an immediate one-to-one thing as you see to get it refreshed there. That's it. I have now got a great model health dashboard here on my front page. If I need to, I can come in here and I can add multiple Power BIs. It tells me I've got one here. You just click the checkbox there and go through the same process of adding in the URL and changing the title, and you're good to go. And again, be sure you hit save after you add any kind of card here. If you just hit refresh or if you hit cancel, it's going to kind of change or delete those settings there. If I do want to change the path of this, there's a settings toggle up here. I can click on that, click configure. I can change the URL, change the title, and I'm good to go. If I'm done with this entirely, if I hit hide card, this is going to remove the card entirely from my BIM 360 dashboard. So I'll need to go through the steps again and reconfigure it and set it up one more time if I want to put it back on here. Hopefully that's a better way or a more convenient way to let you kind of share the information and get it out there and get your metrics in front of people who can impact them and keep your model healthy and happy.